Good morning. Start of another week. Welcome back to Mull. Midges are out as usual. Um, Another very calm morning, just overlooking Duart Bay at the minute. Um, and this morning's message from Mull is fear may not be the way forward, and that's in relation to behaviour change. So this is another little topic on behaviour change. We haven't really touched on this for a little while. And one thing we have to be very important about at Healthy Options is that we try not to scare people into making a change of behaviour, because it tends to have a limited effect. And yet it's something that we, not even the midges, the flies are after me this morning. It's something that we tend to do quite a bit of as humans. We try to scare ourselves or scare others into making changes, and often that is not the way forward, certainly not the best approach. And it certainly has limited effect when it comes to behaviour change. And if you think about all the people that have tried to lose weight, say potentially because they're snacking on poor foods, and we're trying to sort of scare ourselves into the fact that if we snack, we're going to put on weight, we're going to become obese. Yep, we all know that. People who smoke know that the outcomes there are not going to be particularly good. And sometimes we've even used quite graphic images on smoking packages. And actually those images have been shown to have quite limited effect. Um, and a lot of research tends to link back to the fact that as an animal, as we are, when we get scared, when we're put in a fearful situation, we do one of two things. We either freeze or we run away. And that's probably not the best approach when it comes to behavior change. And often we try to seek out positive stories instead. We kind of rationalize things. So if it comes to smoking, for example, we all tend to know somebody who's lived well into their 90s and have smoked all their life. And there is that possibility. And we kind of cling to these stories that we've heard, and think, well, such and such, Mrs. Jones, she was heavily overweight and she lived forever. Or my grandfather smoked all his life and drank strong rum, and he lived to 94. So why can't that happen with me? And we tend to focus on those positive stories because we react better to positive stories as humans. Um, and we tend to shy away from negative outcomes and negative stories. So, and a good example of this is a piece of research looked at people that had stocks and shares, and how often they viewed their stocks and shares and their value on the market. And when things are going particularly well, there's a high occurrence of people looking and viewing their stocks and shares when they're at their highest. You would think when there was a crash that then they'd be looking at them quite often. But actually, the reverse happens. They don't want to see it. They don't want to hear the bad news, and the viewing figures dropped considerably. So we tend to, at most age groups, we tend to look for positive outcomes, except when we're a bit younger. So young kids and teenagers, they tend to react quite well to being scared about a certain outcome. But once we get a little bit older, that effect starts to diminish quite markedly. Um, and and really from 40 years onwards, it really does diminish quite a bit. And another really good piece of research that came out of this was researchers looked at how often hospital staff were washing their hands going into and out of wards. And I should say this was before COVID, well before COVID. And the ideal approach was to wash their hands as they went into the ward and wash their hands as they left the ward. Um, and researchers and certainly their bosses were quite keen to see how often that happened. And despite they'd been told to do this, only about 1 in 10 was actually doing it. Most were doing it either on the way in or on the way out, but not both way in and way out. So what they decided to do was put a board up on the wall so that different shift patterns could see how well each other was doing. And what they found is it went from a 1 in 10 to a 90% increase, because others could actually see what was going on, and it was quite a positive feeling for each of the groups. We have real flies going now. You're probably going to see these landing on the screen. So because there was almost a little bit of friendly competition, there's positive reinforcement to each shift pattern of how well they were doing, and they could see it there. It almost became a bit like a game, and that really encouraged strong behaviour change. So instead of a warning, social incentives tend to make quite a big difference to us, especially when we can compare it with friends, with colleagues, with loved ones. And another really good piece of research was the British government a while ago changed the wording in the letters that went out for people to do their tax returns on time. And they were having a few issues with that. So they changed one sentence. And the sentence change was 9 out of 10 people pay their taxes on time. And that had a 15% increase in the amount of income coming into the British government. And that equated to £5.6 billion. So we tend to react well with social incentives. We tend to react well with immediate rewards as well. We're not very good at looking forward into the future. And we tend to, again, we rationalize things and we think, well, yep, that might become a problem in the future, or I might live forever. And we always try to edge on the side of I'm going to live forever, which obviously doesn't happen. So we're very much influenced by the now incentive, and this might be quite important for you when it comes to changing your behavior. This is the worst morning yet. Whoa! Can I do it from over here? So yeah, need to change. And what might be a real step forward for you is to maybe start writing things down, maybe put a message up, share your goals and the things that you would like to change in your behavior with others, maybe have some friendly competition with a loved one. But certainly, let's get a program put together for all of you that are on you're within your first 12 weeks of healthy options, and let's give you something to work on where you're getting the benefits now. Obviously, the benefits will be there in the future, but in terms of how you're processing that information, that may not be your top priority at the minute. What we need are benefits and incentives that are going to happen to you now, and some sort of social incentive as well would be good. So if you live on your own, maybe give somebody a call, tell them about what you're going to try to achieve, write it down, and then maybe share your progress with them, because progress monitoring is really important as well. And that we keep that in the forefront of our mind. So that might be as simple as a chart in the kitchen, a chart on the naughty drawer where you may go for crisps, biscuits, or alcohol, and maybe writing down how things are going. And that allows you to keep an eye on how you're going, and hopefully that will give you that incentive to keep things monitoring. And I think that's about it today, because I can't stick any more of this. And I will see you again on Wednesday. Have a good day, and hopefully the weather's going to pick up a little bit because it's a bit naff at the minute. And hope you have a lovely weekend. Stay safe. Bye bye.